Hello everyone, welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I am broadcasting to you live from beautiful Budapest, Hungary in Central Europe. Hi Preeti, good to see a member jumping in on the chat nice and early. Hi Alibaba, good to have you in class. Hi Victoria Gonzalez. Hi Elsu, hi Akash. All right, everyone. Today we are doing IELTS listening part 3 and 4. This is a continuation from yesterday's live class. If you missed it, don't worry, don't panic, don't run off, don't go anywhere. You can watch it on our channel after this class. It is available as a recorded video. So if you missed part 1 and 2, don't worry. Watch this class, and then after, you can catch up with part 1 and 2. Everybody, make sure you have a pencil and a paper ready. You will need that to answer the listening section questions. Hi, Mert. Hi, Zainu. Hi, Sarah. Hi, all who's joining in. As usual, our materials come from our websites. We have 6 original practice exams, over 100 hours of video lessons, and a fully interactive course for your phone, tablet, and PC. We are perhaps the only company in the world that separates academic and general IELTS students completely on our websites, because it makes sense to do that, since general IELTS students are a very different group with a very different purpose usually than academic IELTS. So for academic IELTS, go for aehelp.com. For general IELTS, go for gieltshelp.com. That's generalieltshelp.com or academicenglishhelp.com. On our websites, we have a promotion going. You can get a 30% discount from our premium course. Just use the code PARTNER30. That's in celebration of the new feature where you can find speaking partners and chat with them like Skype or WhatsApp through our web portals. And you can also get our books from Amazon. Just search for these names. If you have any questions about IELTS, life in general, the moon and the stars, those I may or may not be able to help you out with, but IELTS most likely, and definitely if you have questions about our product, send me an email to Adrian, that's my name, at aehelp.com. That's ADRIAN at aehelp.com. Again, yesterday we had section 1 and 2 listening, today section 3 and 4. Here's a quick scroll through of some of the schedule for the remainder of this month. Yeah, here's a little bit of an interesting news. We just released a new pre-recorded mock IELTS speaking interview with a Russian candidate who would definitely score an 8.5 for that performance. So check out that speaking interview video, absolutely free on our channel. And then here is just some advice that's important for listening section 3 and 4 in the IELTS. A little bit of review from yesterday. When you're starting the listening test in the IELTS, which is the first part of the sit-down test, you will have an instruction time, okay? The instruction time will say, this is the International English Language Testing System listening section. It's made up of 4 sections. You will have roughly 10 minutes for each part. So while you're listening to the instructions for the listening section, you should take that 80 seconds, it's a lot of time, and look at section 3 and 4 topics and keywords, okay? It's very important to do that because it gives you a prediction, an insight into what you will do later in the listening test. And that can really help you to save a few scores, because warming up your brain, getting your brain to massage and mull over the information will help you to understand it better once you get to that part of the test. So we remember that section 3 is about trade and taxes. It looks something like that. And section 4 is about the famous architect, painter, sculptor Michelangelo. Okay, so that's what we will be looking at today. All right, ladies and gents. So with section 3, section 4, you want to be focused. Of course, try to get as many answers correct as possible. much less repetition of answers than parts 1 and 2, so don't anticipate that. And let's get going with this, okay? So here's section 3. This section 3 is taken from our exam book number 2 for those students that have our books. If you don't worry about it. We're going to do it together right now. This is exam book 2, test number 5, okay? Everybody get your pencil and your paper ready. Ladies and gentlemen, please do not put your answers into the chat while you're listening. Please just write them down on the paper on your computer, on your phone, and then share them after we're done. We'll go through together anyway, okay? So give everybody a fair chance, please. All right, so we will use the audio from our websites. So jumping over, you're looking at our general IELTS website here. This is the green background. I'm going to hop over to our academic IELTS website here. It's our blue background. Listening section is the same for general and academic, so you'll find them the same in both sites. Log in at the top there if you already have an account with us, the My Student account. Once you're in the account, you have all the different sections. Of course, it will be quite bright for you because I have my ISO set for the darker backdrop. But don't worry about that. By the way, here's that partner speaking. So when you're on our website, the free version or the paid premium version, you can click on the student partner speaking. It's this big blue button that I'm tapping right now. And then you'll get a new window that will look different from this, and you can find a speaking partner to practice your speaking with, okay? You can also book paid speaking lessons with professional native speakers, of course. All right, so we open up our audio CDs, go to CD number 5 because it's test number 5, and go to track number 3 because it's section number 3. Everybody please get ready for this. 3, 2, 1. I have maximum volume on my side, so if it's quiet, then turn up your audio or use a headset. And here we go.
Now turn to section 3. Take some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Listening, section 3. You will hear a forum discussion between the moderator and 2 contributors, Dr. Rachel Young and Dr. Ronald Sturgeon, both political scientists at the local university, talking about trade between countries. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Young and Dr. Sturgeon for taking the time to spend this afternoon with us.
Thank you for having us here today.
Dr. Young, could you give us a little background on the topic of free trade and protectionism, a little history?
Well, countries and nation-states have been participating in free trade schemes for millennia. The ancient Egyptians, for example, participated in trade with the Arabians across the Red Sea over 3,000 years ago. The Roman Empire imported many goods from outside their lands, especially luxury goods such as silk, which were only available in China. Free trade, however, though, has much younger roots.
Could you define free trade and protectionism for us, Dr. Sturgeon?
Free trade is trade between countries without taxes, tariffs, or other regulations attached. Without a free trade agreement, nations charge taxes or tariffs on goods that are imported to their country. This is to protect the manufacturers within their country. If country A, for example, produces a product for a 20% higher cost than country B, country A is likely to impose a tariff on the importation of country B's cheaper product into country A. This is to level the playing field for domestic manufacturers. Free trade advocates want to take down this barrier In my opinion, advocates of free trade do not care about domestic manufacturers and workers in their own country. I believe their only intention is to maximize profit for big international businesses.
I know Dr. Sturgeon is impassioned about protectionism, but what he fails to mention is that while free trade may lead to some lost jobs in certain sectors, it leads to many other jobs in other sectors. This may be cold comfort to those in, say, manufacturing or textiles, but we must not be blind to the needs of the many and be distracted by the needs of the few. Nobody says free trade between countries is perfect, but it is certainly better than a protectionist framework which costs the country jobs and prosperity. Another point I would like to make is that free trade increases competition and thus lowers the price of many goods. This saves consumers money. Purchasing a car, for example, is much cheaper under free trade agreements. While such agreements may appear undesirable for a British company such as Land Rover, since they are given price disadvantage within the United Kingdom, this is not the whole story. While it is true that the company is at a minor disadvantage within their home country, free trade agreements puts them in an equally advantageous position in other countries in which the UK has a free trade agreement.
You now have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen to the rest of the discussion and answer questions 27 to 30.
This is a very interesting discussion. Dr. Sturgeon, from reading some of your work, I know you have some ethical concerns about free trade.
Yes, I have a number of ethical concerns. First and foremost, free trade agreements incentivize highly unethical sweatshops. When countries such as the United Kingdom enter free trade agreements with countries with lower human rights standards, we put ourselves at risk of tacitly endorsing those low human rights standards. Is the ability to wear slightly cheaper clothing really worth selling out on one of our most basic beliefs, that people should be treated with respect?
I agree with Dr. Sturgeon that human rights is an ongoing issue in free trade. Certain incidents, such as sweatshops collapsing and killing dozens of workers, have highlighted this issue in the media and public discourse, but these are isolated incidents.
Hardly. These are not isolated at all. And even if such horrible incidents were rare, does it make the conditions those workers work in permissible? Do we excuse horrible working conditions as long as the workers don't die? That's an incredibly low bar, and one I believe we must implore companies and governments to raise.
Okay, let's move on. Dr. Young, do you believe free trade betters the life of the average British citizen?
Absolutely. I believe free trade agreements make us more prosperous as a society. While not perfect, I truly believe pursuing free trade agreements is a positive step in making our world a better place.
Of course, I disagree. While I do not doubt that more wealth comes into our country as a result of free trade agreements, I believe this money never improves the life of the average citizen. The rich get richer and the middle-class workers get laid off. Not to mention the ethical issues I have with this.
That is the end of section 3. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
All right, students, and as many times I've said before, you definitely want to use that half a minute to check your answers, okay? Make sure you don't make silly mistakes. For example, pay attention that here it's just one word, not two words, one word for each of those answers, okay? Here it's 3 words, so checking the instructions is very important. Okay, let's go through this and let's talk about it a little bit. So let's understand some strategy of what works, what doesn't work in the listening section. First of all, just like writing, just like reading, the listening, of course, it's audio information. It also has some topics and controlling ideas. When you're at home, practicing the listening section, especially part 3 and part 4, you need to identify topics and identify controlling ideas. So before we look at the questions, I have a question for you. What are the topics for this listening? Okay, so this is a very important practice strategy before you sit the IELTS at home for listening. Okay, and that is, firstly, identify the topic and controlling ideas. If you don't know these, it's very difficult to understand what's going on and to answer correctly. So what is the topic here? And Jasveer Singh has a really nice answer. Jasveer Singh says, the topic here, Adrian, is trade between nations. Yeah, and that is an excellent answer, Jasveer. So very good. The topic here is trade between nations. Okay, absolutely. And what is the controlling idea in this listening? Zenith, visualizing the information is very important. However, visualizing the information is very tricky before you have a clear understanding of the topic and controlling ideas. Mohammed, you have half of the answer. So Mohammed Kashbor says, part of the controlling idea here in this listening is free trade agreement. And absolutely, that's right. So free trade agreement. And then the other half of that controlling idea is versus something. There's a word that is repeated several times by the speakers, and it's also in the question sheet. It's the opposite of free trade, right? So what was that? Anybody know what that was? The opposite situation of free trade. Azina says using tariffs, so using taxes and tariffs to regulate trade. Absolutely, and there's a word for that. They use it. It's probably a new word for many of you, but perhaps some of you picked it out. It's called protectionism. Protectionism, okay? So to protect, protectionism, right? Ism means a state of affairs, like capitalism, communism, okay? Fascism, protectionism. Protectionism and free trade. So free trade versus protectionism. Why is it protectionism? Because the country is creating a tax system to protect the interest of its domestic manufacturers, of people creating goods and services within the country, so that those services are bought and used and not traded for cheaper international products and services. Okay, good. So again, if you have figured this out, that okay, the topic here is trade between nations, and they're talking about free trade, and then they're talking about protectionism, and you have an idea that free trade is when countries can export, import goods without taxes. Protectionism is when import and export of goods carry a tax or a tariff. You've got that far. Fantastic. You have a much better chance now of getting a good band score, or at least getting more questions right for this listening, okay? So identifying the topic and controlling idea are absolutely good, and you have to practice this at home for the listening section, just as you would for the reading and for the writing as well, or for speaking part 2. Okay, so let's have a look at those questions and answers now, all right? Won't hold you up any longer with that. All right, so here we go. First question, simple fill in the blank, one word. When it says one word, you can use a number. It's okay, all right? How long ago was the first record of trade between nations. In your IELTS, it might actually say one word and or number, okay? Like that. So how long ago? This was right in the introduction, and most of you got it. The first record, right? It could have been a lot longer before that, obviously, but nations, meaning countries, had to exist. And it was 3,000 years ago. That's right. That's the first record of trade where there's official trade going on. All right? Good. So 3,000, you just put that into space 21, you'll get it correct. Please don't write 3,000, okay, because that's 2 words. And if it says 1 word, it's kind of tricky because I suppose it's 1 number in this case, but 3,000 is 2 words, and they probably will not give that to you, okay? Or the instructions might be different. It might say 2 words and or a number, okay? All right. But safest, easiest, just put the number 3,000. Okay, 22 to 24 was a flow chart. And with flow charts, it's very, very important to catch the first piece of information where you know that the answer is coming. What is the easiest piece of information here to catch so that you know you need to focus on number 22 and 23? So which pieces or what piece of information did you have to focus on and catch in your listening so that you could get these answers? Can somebody help? Maybe some students that didn't get that? Okay, this is a little bit of strategy or a tip here. Okay, you're taking some good guesses. Patricio says maybe the word free trade. Naveen, good to see you in class. You're saying maybe the word country A. Yeah, country A is a good one because they're probably going to say exactly this. So when you have this type of information like country A, it's 99% sure that they're not paraphrasing this, so they're going to verbatim say exactly this or these 2 words here, okay? So country A, Naveen, you're absolutely right, and the word 20%, okay? So this point here helps you to know, okay, I got to pay attention. This could be coming very quickly. And then once you hear country A, you have to really be ready to get this one here. And some of you already gave me the answer for that one. Jasveer Singh says that one is tariff. And the correct answer there is tariff, double F, or you will not get the mark. All small letters is just a common noun, or all big letters in your answer sheet. Okay, just make sure you don't make any spelling mistakes. So both of those are correct. Don't write it like this, because you might get that wrong. It's not a proper noun. It's not the name of anything. So don't risk getting that wrong, okay? All right. Now, let's look at question number 23. And I see that Rashini Kunte says, well, for 23, this would be a good keyword to listen for in the audio. And you're absolutely right. Because it's quoted, okay? So notice, students, that here you have these quotations, okay? When you see these quotation marks, that means it's a direct quote, okay? Study your direct and indirect quotes in English. It's very important. So when you see a direct quote with the quotation marks like this, that means that this piece of information, whatever is here, will absolutely be coming directly out of the audio. So to level the playing field is absolutely coming out of the audio. And this is a bit of a tricky answer. So if you don't catch this, you might have a hard time to figure out what they said for this. Anybody remember what that was for number 23? Monica Chaudhary, you have the first word correct, I believe. Yeah. Jasveer, you're almost right. You're almost right. Patricia, you're almost right. It's definitely 2 words. It's domestic. And you're very close. Manufacturers. Okay. It's a plural. Manufacturers. Level the playing field for domestic manufacturers. It's an interesting plural, but you had to catch that plural there. It's not domestic manufacturer, it's domestic manufacturers. So it's the plural of the companies or the people who are manufacturing. A little bit of a tough one, testing for that band 8.59, but hey, you're almost there, so good for those of you that got the idea of domestic manufacturing or domestic manufacturer. All right, let's keep going here. If the countries do have a free trade agreement, the company does not have to pay the import item, so they don't have to pay that tariff or tax. Some advocates of protectionism, there's that word that we discussed, protectionism is the opposite of free trade, believe free trade advocates are only worried about maximizing something for large corporations. You can probably figure that out with using good logic. Even if you missed that question, you should be able to pretty much guess the answer by fitting in the correct word. And Radhawa says, well, why don't we just say profits like this? Like that. So probably some of you here are going, well, Radhawa, why did you do that? Why did you put the bracket S, especially if you're guessing here, right? Well, it's a great answer, man. So good for that one. It's a good guess, and it's a good guess to put the brackets S in there because in this case it does work. So it could be profit or it could be profits. You have to be very careful though, because if the plural or the singular are grammatically wrong, you will get this wrong. In this case, both the single noun and the plural noun are correct. So you can say maximizing profits for large corporations, or you could say maximizing profit for large corporations. You have to read this whole phrase here to know that this is correct in both singular and plural form. Okay, so good for you. If you're not sure, it's better to just go with one or the other. Okay, it's better to just put the plural or the singular in there and stay with it, be confident, and move on. Okay, yeah, Rushni, you can. Like I said, you could put the bracket S in there in the exam if they're both correct. Okay, if you're not sure though, just put one or the other. So you're taking a chance with the bracket. You don't have to. So this would be correct. Just putting profit in there is okay, or putting profits. All of these are okay. Okay, so all of those are okay in this case. All right, you'll probably see in the answer sheet that it will be bracket S. All right, let's keep going here. So here it's no more than 3 words and or a number for each answer. Some people will lose their job under free trade agreements. One of the guys, Dr. Young, is talking about this. But we must emphasize the needs of the something and not be sidetracked by the needs of the. Now, if you know your English and you know some common expressions, then you might actually know this because it is a common expression used in different contexts in English. Notice that it's one question. It's 25. So in your answer sheet, when you see this kind of a question, you have to put one word here, comma, and then the other word here, and the order has to be correct. If you mix up the order, you'll get it wrong, okay? So I see some nice answers coming up there. Naveen says many and few. Preeti, the answer is many and few. You need both here, okay, both. So, yeah, needs of the many, of course, the majority, right, many, and not be sidetracked by the needs of the few. Okay, and again, this is an expression in English focusing on the needs of the many and not be deterred, sidetracked, or distracted by the needs of the few. Okay? All right, so you need both. You need them both correct. They're both simple, common, everyday words. The spelling must be correct, and then you will get it right. If you used all capitals, yeah, that's great. Okay, so both of them in there. All right, let's keep going. So, coming down to number 26. Free trade lowers the price of many goods because it increases, again, logic, okay? So logic, use logic here. Free trade means no tax. If you're selling me bubble gum cheaper than the other guy, I'm going to go to your store. So it increases. It's a common everyday noun. Neil Desai and Zenith Mizana are in agreement with Naveen and Preeti and say that, well, it increases competition. And I go back to the strategy. Don't put the period because it's there. And I go back to the strategy that I told you at the beginning of this question answering. If you know the topic, okay, so if you understand that we're talking about trade between nations, the controlling ideas are free trade versus protectionism, you know what those are, then you can figure this answer out no problem because you know that free trade means that the person who's selling the best product for the lowest price will be the winner in sales, okay? This is, of course, the framework that Amazon is built on. Okay, so competition. Great. Let's keep going. 27 to 28. This is a filling in the table type question. Really pay attention to column headings. Okay, so cause and effect. As soon as you see cause and effect, what kind of words should you be paying attention to? So if you see this kind of a cause and effect type, okay, we'll get to the answers. Don't worry, Siv and Sagar, you got it. And Monica, you're in there as well. Sharon, you're doing good. So you got the right answers. But before we get there, a little bit about strategy. So when you see this kind of a table in your listening and you see that, okay, it's cause and effect, that should immediately trigger a light bulb above your head, your beautiful brain, and that light bulb should definitely turn on nice and bright and go, hey, a little bit of electricity going on there. I have to be listening for what kinds of words? What type of words should I be paying attention to? It's cause and effect. Let's see who's on the same page that I'm on. Not solutions so much, Zena. You should be listening for those subordinating conjunctions. What am I talking about? I'm talking about because, as a result, since, okay, as long as, okay, so those are your subordinating conjunctions of cause and effect. You should know them. And when you see this, you should go, okay, whoa, I got to be listening for enter into free trade agreements because, or as a result of, sweatshops collapse, and therefore these, okay, or the word so if I'm thinking coordinating conjunction. So you should sharpen your ears for those. Kesey, good to see you in class. Another member coming up with some good answers too. Saying, yeah, because and due to. And I think they actually use that, Kesey, the due to in this case. So you're on the right track. Absolutely. Okay, now let's answer. All right, so a little bit of strategy there for you to pay attention to. Light bulb, always remember, Your brain is a processor. It's not just a recording device. You're not just recording the listening section and reflecting answers, but you're processing information throughout the whole IELTS. Your brain is a beautiful processor, the most powerful in the known universe. All right, so number 27, sweatshops collapse. We pay attention to these words. The speaker, Dr. Sturgeon, uses directly these two words. The conditions are highlighted in the media. That's right, used by Dr. Young. Sorry, Dr. Young uses those. So media, one word, right? Paying attention to the instructions, just one word. So media is correct. You can use all capitals or small letters. It's fine. 28, the realization that such incidents are not isolated implore companies and who to raise the standards. So we know from the space that this is a who or whom. It's an entity. Yeah, you almost got it right, Shiv Kumar, and you almost got it right, Zena, and you almost got it right, Sharon. Naveen has it right. And this is what you can do when you're checking your answers and when you're transferring your answers to the answer sheet. So the correct answer here is governments. And in this case, you have to have that S, okay? The S is absolutely critical. Alien Eater says governments. Alien Eater always clever in answers and comments. Yeah, don't write 5 S's, Alien Eater, because they won't like the smart aleck response. But you're absolutely right. The plural is very important. Why? Why does it need the S? Well, because of parallel grammar form. Okay, remember, parallel grammar is very important in English. It's important in other languages too. It's companies. Companies has an S, so governments has to have an S. If you're listing and you say, I ate bananas, apples, and oranges, then you should have parallel form. So you should have S, S, S on all of those. It's awkward to say, I ate banana, apples, and oranges. Just weird. Even if it's true, it's kind of weird. It's weird to read it that way. If you're using singular, like I ate a banana, I ate an apple, and an orange. Okay? There I'm using singulars, so parallel grammar form. Now you can catch that now that I told you, and you know this, don't lose this mark if you see it on the IELTS. When you're checking your answers in the 30-second review time, and then again, when you're transferring your answers to the answer sheet, that's the kind of check that you can look for. Implore companies and governments. It's governments to raise the bar. Okay, you just picked up a mark and maybe made the difference between a 6.5 and a 7, or a 6 and a 6.5, just on that one little blooper. Okay? All right, so keep that in mind. Last two, multiple choice. All right. Number 29, you had to catch this. It was quite clear. What is Dr. Young's main point in advocating for free trade? So what did Dr. Young say about free trade? Was it A, they're the biggest economic driver for making the world better? Or did he say, well, they're not perfect, sure, but it is the right step towards increasing global welfare? Or did he say, well, they're not always positive, but can be important to level the playing field for domestic manufacturers? What did he say? He said B. Yeah, very good. Okay, for those of you who caught it. A little bit of a difficult one, but B is the correct answer. All right. Okay, last one for this section. What is Dr. Sturgeon's main point in advocating for protectionism? So Dr. Sturgeon is on the other side of the table. He is in favor of protectionism. What does he say? Overall wealth is increased in society. Middle-class jobs are the foundations of an economy, and that it works for the few and not just for domestic manufacturers. And free trade agreements are bad because they concentrate wealth in the hands of the elite few. So was that A, B, or C? What is Dr. Sturgeon's response? A, B, or C in that one? This is for number 30. Okay, so Naveen says A, Maruf says maybe B, Manrun Wanwa says A. Yeah, I think it's maybe A. I didn't quite catch that one, so we'll check the answer sheet at the end. Okay, we'll count up your scores from yesterday and today. So if you felt that that was A, I think logic tells me A is the best answer. C looks a little bit weird to me just because it's talking about free trade and not protectionism. So that's why I'm ruling that one out. Okay. I didn't really hear him say much about the middle class jobs. He did say a little bit. So I think he said A the most, but I can't quite remember. So let's stick with A and we'll check later. Okay, ladies and gents, let's do the final section, section 4. Remember, section 4 is a little bit unique. There is no break between the two halves, so you don't get a break after question number 5 for further review. It's 10 questions all in one go. So I'm going to now play the audio for this. Get your pencil and paper ready. Again, for those of you who are joining in the last few minutes, please do not write your answers into the chat. Give everybody a fair chance to come up with their own answers. We will go through the answers together. So here we go. Pencils, papers ready. Not in the chat. We'll go through it together, and at the end, we'll count up your marks, and I'll give you your band scores from yesterday's and today's class. So here we go with section 4.
Now turn to section 4. Take some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Listening, section 4. You will hear a university lecture on the famous artist Michelangelo. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good to see you all. As you know, we're having an exam a week from today. Material from today's class will be included on the exam, but material from the final 2 classes of the week will not be included. I hope this will give you an opportunity to revise enough to perform well on the exam. With that administrative business out of the way, I'd like to begin today's lecture on the lesser-known works and endeavors of the famous Italian Renaissance artist Michelangelo. While Michelangelo is best known for his painting of the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, he was also the creator of a number of other highly respected works. Among these are the Pieta, a statue of Mary holding a deceased Jesus, and the statue David, said to be the representative of the perfect male form. But Michelangelo was not just a painter and a sculptor. One of his crowning achievements is St. Peter's Basilica, a project he was lead architect on for the 17 years preceding his death in 1564. While the basilica wasn't completed until 1626, over 60 years after his death, Michelangelo's influence on the structure was immense, as he had laid out many plans for the structure during his lifetime, many of which were faithfully carried out under the reign of future popes and future architects. Michelangelo's fingerprints are all over modern Rome, and especially what is today Vatican City. Not only through his paintings, frescoes, and sculptures, but also through his architectural achievements. In addition to his influence on St. Peter's Basilica, Michelangelo also redesigned the famous Capitoline Hill area of Rome, and designed many chapels within the walls of the Vatican. Michelangelo was also tasked with a number of pet projects over the years. These projects were not one that the man himself wanted to undertake, but was compelled to because of monetary considerations or simply loyalty to the Pope. For example, when Pope Julius II ordered him to construct a 3 times life-size bronze statue of the Pope, Michelangelo had no choice but to accept. The project took up more than 2 years of his life, and 4 years after its completion, the work was unceremoniously melted down to construct cannons. Additionally, the conditions under which he was made to work were often sorely substandard. For years, he lived and worked with 4 other men in a cramped apartment with little to no privacy and no room for his creative juices to flourish. It is interesting to imagine what a genius such as Michelangelo could have accomplished given reign over his own creativity. I personally believe the world is a poor place for him having not been allowed this luxury. However, on the other hand, perhaps Michelangelo's sometimes tortured life imbued his works of art with something more than just artistic genius. Although Michelangelo is a celebrated figure for his works of art and well respected for his architectural acumen, his literary works are virtually unknown to the world. He was a virtuoso of Renaissance art, celebrated in his lifetime and venerated centuries after his death, but his writings never made an impact on the society in which he lived, nor in the years since. Michelangelo was an avid writer of poetry and found that poetry was an invaluable escape from the grind of his everyday work life, especially during the years spent arduously painting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Poetry provided an outlet for his frustrations, fears, beliefs, and desires. Those who want to know the real Michelangelo must go beyond his frescoes and sculptures and dig deep into his personal writings. There, one will find a rather tortured soul, harmed by years of physical, political, professional, and personal strife.
That is the end of section 4. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
All right, so not only is that an IELTS listening section 4, but for those of you who are planning to study in university, be ready to have very similar lectures or similar speed and intensity and intellectual level of grammar, vocabulary, expression in your university lectures, okay? Of course, this would be an art history type of class, but you would have the same caliber of lectures in biology, computer science, and so forth. All right, so having said that, let's go through the answers now together. So the first one's a little bit offbeat, not quite about Michelangelo, but about the class itself. Here you had to identify whether the information is on the exam or not on the exam. You can use each letter more than once, so it could be AA or BB. So 31, material from the 3rd class of the week. Is that going to be on the exam or not? 3rd class of the week. Many of you are saying it's not on the class. I agree. It sounds like it will not be. You have to do a little bit of thinking there. The final 2 days will not be on the exam. It sounded like that will not be on the exam. All right, number 32, material from the current class. Number 32 is A. Yeah, she said material from today's class will be on the exam. So that is the current class. Today's class is the current class. So it is on the exam. Now, when you're in university, studying in the UK or in Canada, maybe in the same university where I studied, the University of Victoria, beautiful university, you will have to be able to take notes while the professor is giving you this information. Here we go. The life and works of Michelangelo, broken into sections. Other works, architectural achievements. Pay attention to those sections. They will help you. Also pay attention to keywords like Sistine Chapel, of course. Pieta. Names are very helpful to identify where you are in the lecture. While Michelangelo is perhaps the most famous, for painting the Sistine Chapel, he is also famous for a number of other highly respected works, including the Pieta and the statue named something thought to symbolize male beauty. Which statue was that? Now, it was a little bit tricky because they said 2 statues here, so you have to pay attention to this piece of information, and that will give you the answer, David. Very good, Begzod. Very good, Naveen. Good for other students who got it. So, David, in this case, it's a proper noun. It's the name of a person. So capital D, if you write it like this in your answer sheet, you will definitely get that wrong. So don't do that. Okay, all capitals is okay. All right. So David is your answer for that one. Architectural achievements, far more than just a painter. Michelangelo was also an architect. He was lead architect on St. Peter's Basilica for how many years? Until his death. They said the number here, so hopefully you picked that up. This helped you to get that answer, and this word for helps you out as well. Yeah, 17 years. Now careful, students, if you only put 17, you'll get it wrong. For 17 until his death, without this, doesn't make sense. So you must have the word years, okay? And it has to be plural. If you put 17 year, it's also wrong. 17 is wrong, 17 year is wrong, 17 years is correct. Cigar Vide, careful with the capital Y. This is not a proper noun, so a small y is okay. All right, so 17 years. Though the structure was not completed until 60 years after his death, 1624, wow, his fingerprints are all over the resulting structure because future something and something, or someone and someone, I should say, so future someone and someone faithfully carried out his designs. The word future was repeated twice. They said future this and future that. So you don't need to repeat the word future, but you do need the 2 words. Naveen, you will not pick it up because you're missing the S's, and it's not architecture because architecture is the study of building design, but here we want the person noun. Monica, Pop would be your dad. Okay, P-O-P without the E on the end, that's your father. Okay, this is a slang word which means dad. Okay, so not only is it wrong, but it's a little bit funny. All right, so the correct word here is popes, and we often capitalize the word popes, and architects. Okay, has to be with S's. Why? Because they say popes and architects, so you can't use singular. Also, notice completed until 60 years after his death. 60 years, there is no way that you would have just one pope and one architect working for 60 years. Okay? Oh, Monica, don't take it personally. It's just an important point to make there. So popes and architects, and plural because they said plural, and it has to be plural because logically 60 years is mostly more than a single lifetime, okay? All right. Well, Preeti, I know it's difficult to catch this one, but remember, it's a section 4. This is where the band 8, band 8.5, band 9 are separated from the other bands, okay? So IELTS has to be progressively more difficult to separate the different levels of English. Michelangelo's influence is also apparent around the rest of the city of what? What city? Is it seen, including at the ancient Capitoline Hill site. So they say this. Roshni Kunte, very good. City of Rome. Rome. We don't really say City of Vatican. That's awkward English. We say Vatican City, but we say City of Rome. So I believe Rome is your better answer there. City of Rome. Okay. The Vatican or Vatican City, quote unquote, is inside the city of Rome. So you have Rome, and then within Rome you have the Vatican. But Michelangelo's artworks can be seen in other parts of Rome. If you know a little bit of Italian geography, then you would be able to figure this one out. Because you know that Michelangelo's works are in other parts of Rome, not just the Vatican. Okay, servant of the papacy. He was also a loyal servant of the Pope. See how Pope here is capitalized? That will help you with that previous answer. Sometimes this was important work, though sometimes it was rather pointless. He once built something of the Pope only to see it melted down. Can you imagine how painful that is? Can you imagine doing something for a couple years of your life and then soon after it's done, you see people just melt it and burn it, and it would be painful. To make a weapon, nonetheless. All right, so what was that? It's not a bronze statue, Roshni, but you're close. It was a bronze statue, okay? Here, the word was bronze statue. If you don't know what this was, just leave it out. They might just give it to you for statue, okay? Bronze, for those of you who don't know, bronze is a type of metal alloy. It's a mixture of metals, I believe. Bronze is... if you like sports, it's third place prize. So it goes bronze, silver, gold, right? In the Olympics, it's the brown medal. So bronze, silver, gold. When I say, by the way, these kinds of terms like Olympic medals, bronze, silver, gold, you should repeat me, okay? So bronze statue. All right, moreover, the something he had to work in were often substandard. If you have some good vocabulary, you can probably figure that out. What is number 38? Moreover, the what? Conditions, that's right. The conditions he had to work in were often substandard, often being forced to live and work in small cramped spaces with a number of other men. Right, so conditions, again plural, not condition, conditions he had to work in. It makes grammatical sense. Okay, moving on. Last part, literary works. It is interesting to think what he could have made if he was given the freedom to explore his own. Now again, if you have some experience with English, you know that this is an expression, to explore your or to explore one's something side. Creativity, yeah. Okay, there is an expression in English to explore your creative side. All right, again, repeat when I say these kinds of commonly used expressions so you learn them for the future. So don't be surprised if you hear this a few more times in your life where somebody says, do explore your creative side. Hey, join this arts and crafts extravaganza, bonanza, and explore your creative side. All right? Do something fun. Build something crazy. All right, here we go. And then while his life may have been difficult, some people argue that this difficulty made him a better artist. And then 40 starts with the subject, verb, object, usual way to set up an English sentence. So this is the subject. Was an important way to escape the difficulties of Michelangelo's life. It is not poverty, Chintan. Poverty would not be a good way to escape one's difficulties. It would be quite the contrary, my good friend. Navrasi, it was not pottery, although that's an interesting visualization. For all of those, Deep Sandhu and Man Randhawa and Maruf and Preeti, you are all correct. It was poetry. Poetry was an important way to escape the difficulty. So writing, right? You know that this is poetry. You shouldn't say pottery. Pottery would be an awkward answer there because it's literary works. Literary means writing. Okay? So writing. That way you will also figure out poetry. So do pay attention to those headings. They will help you. All right? So pay attention to headings. Use that logic. Focus. Plurals, singulars in section 3, section 4 can really catch you off guard. So really keep an extra eye on the plurals and singulars, okay? All right, ladies and gents, that is it. Count up your marks. Don't go anywhere, especially for those of you who have your marks from yesterday's class, from section 1, section 2. Count them up. How many did you get correct? How many, what's your score out of 40? What's your raw score? If we go back to the website here, I'll darken it up so you can see it a little bit better. Just give me one moment. Okay, now you can see the background a bit more. So if we go back to the home page of our academic website here, and we scroll to the very bottom. This is, by the way, where you can buy our website. We scroll to the very bottom, and I enlarge and enlarge and enlarge and enlarge, you see that there is the link for our score calculator that's available for everybody. And Brown Boy says, I got 21 out of 40. Do I get 9? Brown Boy, I think you're dreaming there, but I'll tell you what you get in a moment. So here's the score calculator. Of course, we're looking for the listening. That's the top one. This is academic reading. It's different from general. Careful. So 21, Brown Boy, would be a score of 5.5. Okay, 5.5, Brown Boy, for 21 out of 40, which is not, it's not bad, okay? 5.5 means you have decent English skills. It's just, you know, gets a lot more difficult as you get along. Zenith Mazana says, I got 31. How about what happens if we get 10 more correct? Well, if you get 10 more correct, you get a band score of 7, as you can see there. So 21, 5.5, 31 is 7. Okay. All right. Maruf says 35. 35 is a band score of 8. Preeti, you got 32. You said you got 8 wrong. 32 is a 7.5. So notice that that's that one score difference. So if you got 31, you got 7. If you got 32, you got 7.5. All right. Kishichi Kadam, you got 16 out of 20, which is excellent for section 3 and section 4. Let's double that and give you 2 more because section 1 and 2 are easier. So let's see, you got 34, 7.5. All right. Ilyas Yafi says, I got 29. How about 29? All right, let's do that. 29 is a 6.5. So you would get a 6.5, which is pretty much what you need for a bachelor's or for immigration or visa purposes a lot of times now. Naveen, 17 out of 20 for today's class. Let's double it and give you one more. So that's 34. Let's say 35 to be on the safe side. That would be an 8. Naveen, so that's pretty good. All right. Deep Sandhu, I don't think 17 out of 25 is possible because we had 20 questions today. I'll take one more. Anurag and Arsh Gill both got 33. So let's check that out. 33 is still a 7.5, of course, because that 32 is our cutoff, okay? Kishiji, you like the beard? It's gone for now. Might make a return later on. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very, very much for attending today's and yesterday's class. Again, remember to check out our websites where you have amazing help to increase your band scores in IELTS. Spend a little bit of money and save a lot of money by learning the right strategies and getting the right help. IELTS exams are expensive. Getting the right practice materials is much cheaper than sitting the exam 2 or 3 times. You can use this code, partner30, to get a 30% discount. Good job, everyone. Sorry, I see it's quite bright, or sorry, dark. I'll bring back the brightness here. There we go. You can see me a little bit better. All right, so there we go. Tomorrow, again, class at same time, 15 o'clock Central European Time. And it will be speaking part 1 and 2. Speaking parts 1 and 2 tomorrow. Again, you can find speaking partners with video and audio on our websites, or just audio, for free. Okay, so check that out. Much love to all of you. Have a great rest of your day. Peace out.